Hi there, everyone. I'm Ani Anderson. I'm joined by Brian Traskos. We're from the Somatic Coaching Academy. Whether you're watching us live, watching the recording, watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, we are so glad that you're here. Today, we are talking about finding hope in the BANI, Briani world. That's a little bit of an inside joke. Bonnie. I'm not sure exactly how people are pronouncing this, Brian. I mean, my name is pronounced Ani. Put a B in front of it. Does it become Banny? I'm not really sure. But it's kind of a hot topic right now. This idea that the whole world order, like how we're viewing, conceptualizing the world has recently shifted. It's kind of obvious, but now we're kind of conceptualizing it, which I'm actually kind of excited about. So talk to us a little bit about what this Banny thing means, where it's
Yeah,
coming from.
I'm not sure it's like we've recently shifted, right? I mean, we're recently conceptualizing things differently, as
Right.
you noted, Ani. So Jimmy Cascio, who is an American philosopher and kind of thought leader, has talked about the way we perceive the world is different. And so he has an acronym, BANI, and it stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. And so, the way I think about that is oftentimes I do look at the world and it's incomprehensible. It's just like nothing. It doesn't make sense. Like a lot of things that go on in the world just don't make sense. I'm sorry, there are things going on like invading countries and killing people. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
These are
And
the kinds of conversations people are having around their kitchen tables and in their cars and rides and things
yeah,
like
so
that,
it
right? Like
is
it's like, what the
incomprehensible.
heck things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incomprehensible, and it creates anxiety. Think about in Ukraine right now, the anxiety. I mean, the whole world is anxious about this incomprehensibility that's going on, and the brittleness. So the B stands for brittleness, and everything seems like it's a deck of toppling cards, doesn't it? It feels like we're like living in a Jenga pile, all constantly. That could constantly come toppling down. So there's a sense of brittleness, and it's not just fragility. It's just things just seem so unsafe, unsettled, uncertain, unsure, and that there's a sense of things aren't linear anymore. It's like we go from A to Z and jump over everything else, and who knows how we got there, sort of thing. So this is
Right.
kind of where we are in the world right now. And think pandemic, think invading countries, think
Our politics, our
monsoon,
healthcare, our
think
education systems, like
climate
everything, right?
change, think all this stuff that's going on right now in the world. So that's kind of where this framework kind of comes from. And Ani, you and I have done personal development work with people and ourselves for like our whole lives, like really, really long time. And we also see that these symptoms, if you will, of brittleness and anxiety and non-linearity and incomprehensibility also show up a lot in people's lives when they are going through personal development leaps.
Yeah, so one of the things I thought was really interesting when this started to come out into articles and such, when I first read it, I was like, oh, it sounds like all the clients that used to come see us in our wellness center, in our private practices. I mean, it's very predictable, actually. So we were always the people who people would come to when the doctor didn't know it was wrong. So they'd, have some kind of symptomology. They'd go to their doctor. The doctor say, I don't know what's wrong. And they'd come see us, or
Mhm.
eventually they'd just come see us, and so it was all of these kind of symptomologies. I love that you use that word, were actually very indicative of a person who was right on the cusp of making a very big change in their life, making a transformation in their life. And we loved being the people to help them to do that. But I think one of the things that I love the most is having somebody like that come into my office or virtual office. It still happens where the client will say something like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. Like, how do we get to what's wrong? And one of the what's wrong with me? Right. And so one of the first things that we start to do is help them to understand from a perspective of the natural laws, there's something wrong with you. There's a massive opportunity. What is it? And
Mhm.
that's the conversation I think that's so exciting that we get to have. You know, the doctors haven't been able to figure out what's wrong with us, folks. We have problems that have been going on for such a long, now I'm getting on the soapbox, Bry. We have problems in all of our systems that have been going on for such a long, long time. And just like when a person goes to a doctor and says, what's wrong with me? And the doctor hasn't been able to figure it out, you know, now we're at a time in our history where we get to say, hang on, what's the opportunity for our transformation here? Because all of the solutions that we've been trying for forever and ever, for years and years, they haven't been working. They're not going to work now.
Right. Yeah. It's the paradigm. I equate this right to where we come out of the health and wellness field, Ani, the medical field. So, we both started working way back when with people with health stuff going on, right? So back pain, headaches, strokes, diseases, like all those kinds of things. And then our private practices dealing with a lot of people with pain mostly would kind of show up on our doorstep. And here's the thing, in the Western medical paradigm, we get really attached to trying to fix the symptoms.
Right.
trying to treat the symptoms, fix the symptoms. And we feel like if we can fix the symptoms, then the problem goes away. But that's not how it works. You just end up masking a symptom and you get other symptoms, other places. So I think where we really came at it from was manage the symptoms and progress through the process, right? Manage the symptoms and progress through the process. Because the deal is, if you're trying to fix the symptoms and you get stuck in fixing symptoms, you're not going through the process. You actually stall the process.
Stall it out.
We'd work with so many people who are just, they'd get to a point where they felt brittle and they felt anxious and they felt out of control and they felt whatever they felt. But that's just because they were right up against themselves. Even people with chronic pain. And this is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to this, Ani. And I've heard very few other people who actually teach or talk about it this way. But this is a strategy of the subconscious, actually. As we're making a change, as we're moving into change, even for someone who would come see me with back pain, and we'd be talking about it and we'd be investigating what's going on and inevitably discover that their back pain is a symptom of being locked in a belief system and in resistance to changing a belief system from something else showing up in their life. And as soon as they understand that, they're like, oh, so the problem isn't my back pain. No, the back pain is a symptom. So let's manage the symptom and work through the process. And when we complete the process, the symptom goes away. So it's not about, and then you have some people who ignore the symptoms.
Exactly.
Which doesn't work either, by the way, because then the symptoms just rear right up. They're like, you're not going to ignore me. So we have to manage the symptoms. We have to manage the brittleness. We have to manage the anxiety. We have to manage the non-linearity. We have to manage the incomprehensibility and continue working through the process of evolution that, I see, even though things seem crazy right now, that the possibility for evolution for us as a human species is right there. It's literally right in front of us.
I think that's what we need to get really excited about and hopeful for. I mean, so many things have been coming up in our world for a long, long time. And we see that we, try to bring this revolutionary spirit so that things can change. And then they end up going right back where they are. We're at a period in history where we can actually evolve through many of the difficulties that we've been having. And I think there is great hope. And I think one of the things that lends itself to being able to be hopeful is having knowledge and seeing evidence. So for you and I remember when COVID first hit, we were like, this is going to be a really good opportunity. Like day 3, we were already really excited about the opportunity that these things could bring. Was there a lot to manage? Is there a lot to manage? Yes, there's absolutely a lot to manage. Has it been, at times overwhelming and stressful and stuff? Absolutely. Yep. And I still, just like day 3, hold this really wonderful resolve and great hope for where we're going, because we've seen, you and I, for years and years, that this is a part of the transformational process. So it's actually really exciting. One of the things I'm excited about is the scientific research is really catching up with these ideas. I was just reading a book, listening to an audiobook recently about the stress response. And of course, we teach on this stress response and stuff all the time, but this is one of the first times I'm really hearing people talk about what you were just saying about managing the symptoms and continuing to go through the process, rather than just manage and fix the symptoms. And then what? A week later, still doing the same things.
Right.
So I think the science is, well, as evidenced by these articles that are coming out about BANI, I think the philosophy and the science, mainstream stuff is really catching up now with this idea of transformation that, is obviously upon us.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
So, just to wrap it up here for our chat today, can you find hope? Can you find hope in the BANI world, Brian?
I can certainly find lots of hope in it. Like I said, I think it's obviously signs to me that we are, as a human species, we are exactly in the place where we need to be. And it's going to feel like going through the eye of a needle. That's what really true transformation and change feels like. It feels like going through the eye of the needle, but going through the eye of the needle doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be difficult, but it's going to feel like you're going through the eye of a needle.
Yeah. So if you're watching this live, or you're watching the recording, I really encourage you to look back in your own life experience. If you're a grown up, you've gone through transformations in your life. So think back to those times when you have, and notice that there is these elements of, like Brian was saying, this brittleness, anxiety, this non-linear kind of stuff. It's a part of transformation. Think back to it for yourself and reflect on that for you, because all of us, no matter what you do, all of us are in this together and going to have to help each other through. So our capacity to reflect on our own life experience and see the transformations that we've made are going to help each and every one of us, to help each and every other person to move through this process, because we're all in it together. Right, Brian?
You got it.
All in.
All in.
All in. Just like the basketball team said, all in. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you want to see more live streams, make sure you click like, subscribe, and all of those cool buttons. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.